Här pågår Missed Reality, en konferens om filmturism och nya medier och spelmöjligheter, långfilmer, ja, saker och ting vi inte ännu sett.
So I came across an internet article saying, there's hundreds of people flying all the way down to the other side of the world just to see, a bit of grass, a bit of rock. There's nothing to be seen. There's literally nothing. So I thought, okay, why do they do that? So I thought, well, that's an interesting sort of research project, and I always wanted to write a PhD thesis. Thought, that's it. I'm going down to New Zealand and find out why these people go all the way down to see locations. There's nothing to be seen. So this is sort of really what started the whole thing.
What's happened over the last couple of decades is that it's getting increasingly hard for a tourism organisation or a destination to get its voice heard. For example, last year there were over 140 destinations advertised on British television. They're all advertising beautiful beaches and lovely sunny weather, the same things, good service. So to promote yourself through film, i.e. via product placement, is becoming extremely popular. It's just another way of communicating. And so what's happening is that destinations, the clever destinations, are looking at films and television and saying, actually that depicts our brand in a positive light. Let's promote this. Let's jump on the back of it. And Wallander have done that very well in terms of providing, with the DVD box of the Wallander series. Inside that is a guide to Sweden and Ystad, so that you not only have that exposure through film and television, but someone where I live in Canada would watch it and then say, but there's some information on Sweden as well.
Människor som aldrig någonsin satt sin fot i Sverige innan, som är otroligt svårfångade, vi lyckas få det hit alldeles på en gång. Det är jätteintressant.
After the Lord of the Rings films, they did a survey, and 87% of people knew the films were made in New Zealand. There was no accident. They spent millions and millions of dollars tying the films to New Zealand, tying Middle Earth. They even branded New Zealand as Middle Earth. So it does take some promotional activity. But of course, to answer your question in a short way, it brings more income in, more tourists bring more money. And film tourists can be quite high yield as well. The Indiana Jones, for example, had a spurt of growth in archaeological tours in Peru. Now, you need a bit of money to go on an archaeological tour in Peru. So film tourists can be quite attractive.
Some people maybe haven't even seen the films, but they realize, okay, there's a location tour going on, so they think, okay, I've always been interested to see how movies are being made, and I just hop on the tour, but I haven't seen the films. And then the other extreme would probably be the real nerds, as you might call them. They travel, for example, all the way down to New Zealand, spend thousands of dollars just to see Lord of the Rings locations.
So there's a lot of things that do contribute to success. Well, one thing that I found from my research that really does help is if the tourism industry and the film industry work together, and if they get involved at the very early stages of a production, so that it's not just an afterthought. Oh, that film's working, let's jump on the back of it. That does work, but it's not going to be sustainable.
Well, I think it brings the sites and the country to a brand new audience. I think that's what it does. It gives it a kind of level of exposure that it wouldn't have normally. Tourism in itself, you can market in so many different ways in the web and publications, but when people can actually see it on film, it represents it in such a wide different ways and method and means of doing something. It makes it just more accessible.
Film tourism to me has always had a real interest. I saw the movie Out of Africa many years ago, and it still inspired me to want to visit Kenya. And so I've been trying to understand the whole phenomena for years. And it surprises me really that there isn't that much research out there. So I'm still looking at it and plan to continue research.
Had phenomenal coverage there. Visitor attractions more than doubled their admissions coming in. The region had several more £1 million to spend with people coming in and staying in the area. The Da Vinci Code was one of the more recent examples, which has had international exposure. So, things like that have been very, very important for Scotland.
Well, as a definition, you could say it's someone who's seen a location on screen and then decides to travel to the destination. That's sort of the really short version. Although, there's lots of different types of film tourists, but they all go to portray a place they've seen on film.
Det blir många aha-upplevelser vartefter. En sak till exempel som pratades om igår, att det står Ja, det var någon som nämnde Skåne. Jag sa att jag har aldrig hört talas om Skåne. Jag har hört talas om Sverige, Lappland, Stockholm, Göteborg, Ystad. Men Skåne var en nyhet. Så där har vi i varje fall lanserat någonting.
Well, I mean, we've had quite a lot of collaborations, really, and I've got to say that it's only moving in one direction, and that is for the better. I must admit, when I started out, filmmakers were very, very reluctant for any kind of sort of collaboration at all. They were very precious about their product and actually didn't want any kind of interruption on the set or anything like that whatsoever. But I think both sides were much more readily being able to see what value they can give each other.
It doesn't have to be a high-budget film, like Sideways, for example, in the US, was a very low-budget film, but extremely successful for the tourism industry in Santa Barbara. And it even caused a worldwide shortage of Pinot Noir. It was very successful. But it does help if the film is successful, if it's viewed by a lot of people, because then, of course, you get more exposure.
Actually, not only just internationally, but actually indigenously in Scotland, have actually wanted to find out more about their history. And despite the fact that Braveheart was incredibly historically inaccurate, it actually gave people a foothold. It actually gave people, sparked their interest to actually find out really what happened about one of Scotland's most iconic figures. So you've got the Scottish audience finding out more about a subject that might have been a little bit dry to understand, and then you've got an international audience that's coming there and finding, well, actually he didn't have his face painted, he didn't wear a kilt, and all of these sort of things, and then they've been able to sort of find out about it twice, had an image of Scotland and then find out the truth about it, and I think all of that is a healthy thing.